You are looking through glass right now, your windows, your phone screen, your car windshield, the lenses in your glasses. Glass is so common that you probably never stop to think about what it actually is. It looks simple, it looks solid, it looks like one of the most ordinary materials on Earth. But glass is one of the most scientifically strange substances humans have ever made. And physicists still argue about what it actually is. Here is the first strange thing. Glass is not a solid. Not exactly. It is not a liquid either. It exists in a state that does not fit neatly into either category. And that single fact has confused scientists for over a century. To understand why, you need to understand what makes a solid a solid. When most materials cool down from a liquid state, their atoms slow down and lock into a highly ordered grid. Metals do this, ice does this, salt does this. The atoms line up in a repeating crystal structure, and that regular arrangement is what gives most solids their strength and predictability. Glass does not do this. When molten glass cools, the atoms slow down, but they never organize into a crystal. They freeze in a disordered, tangled arrangement, like a crowd of people who were all moving and then suddenly stopped in whatever random position they happened to be in. Scientists call this an amorphous solid, meaning a solid without a crystal structure. The atoms are locked in place like a solid, but their internal arrangement looks like a liquid. This is why glass is transparent. Light passes through materials when it has nothing to interact with inside. Crystal structures often scatter light or reflect it, but glass, with its disordered atomic arrangement, has almost nothing for light to catch on. The photons pass straight through, and this single strange property, the fact that light goes through it, changed the course of human history. Humans have been making glass for at least 3,500 years. The earliest known manufactured glass objects were beads and decorative items found in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, dating back to around 1500 BCE. But for most of that early history, glass was opaque and cloudy. It was used for decoration, not for seeing through. The breakthrough came around the 1st century BCE, when glassblowers in the region, now known as Syria, developed a technique that changed everything. By gathering molten glass on the end of a metal pipe and blowing air through the pipe, they could inflate the glass like a bubble, shaping it into thin-walled vessels that were clear enough to see through. Glass blowing spread rapidly across the Roman Empire and allowed artisans to make glass in shapes and sizes that had never been possible before. But the material itself was still impure, still thick, still full of bubbles and distortions. Making glass truly flat and truly clear took another 1,500 years. In the 13th century, the island of Murano near Venice became the center of the glassmaking world. The Venetian Republic forced all glassmakers to move to the island, partly to reduce the fire risk of their furnaces in the city, but partly to keep their techniques secret. Murano glassmakers developed methods for making glass that was clearer, thinner, and more refined than anything produced anywhere else in the world. Their secrets were so valuable that leaving the island without permission was treated as a serious crime. Master glassmakers were given special privileges, but they were also not allowed to leave. The knowledge they protected was producing what we now recognize as the foundation of the modern world. Clear flat glass made windows possible, and windows changed everything. Before reliable window glass, buildings had a difficult trade-off. You could have an opening to let in light, or you could have a wall to keep out wind and rain. You could not easily have both. Small shuttered openings, oiled animal skins, and thin sheets of horn were used in different cultures, but none of them gave you real transparency. You could have shelter or you could have light. Window glass broke that trade-off. It let buildings keep warmth in and weather out while still allowing daylight to flood interior spaces. This made it practical to read, to work, to live indoors through the long winters of Northern Europe. Some historians argue that the spread of window glass was a significant contributor to the intellectual activity of the Renaissance. Not because of what it was made of, but because it made indoor work comfortable enough to do for long stretches of time. But glass was about to do something even more important. Lens grinding, the shaping of glass into curved surfaces that bend light, had been understood for centuries, but the quality of glass available was too poor to make lenses that worked well. The clearer and more consistent Venetian-style glass changed that. By the late 16th century, glassmakers in the Netherlands began producing glass clear enough and consistent enough to grind into reliable lenses. In 1590, spectacle maker Zacharias Janssen in Middelburg is credited by some historians with assembling the first microscope, 2 lenses in a tube that could magnify small objects many times over. A few years later, in 1608, Hans Lippershey, also a spectacle maker in the Netherlands, filed the first patent for a telescope. Within a year, Galileo Galilei had built his own version and pointed it at the sky. What he saw there, the moons of Jupiter, the phases of Venus, the craters of the moon, dismantled a worldview that had stood for over 1,000 years. The idea that the Earth sat motionless at the center of the universe could not survive what Galileo saw through that glass tube. The scientific revolution was not launched only by ideas. It was launched, in significant part, by glass. And the material itself was still not fully understood. For much of the 20th century, a popular story circulated that old window panes in medieval cathedrals were thicker at the bottom than at the top, because glass is technically a liquid that flows very slowly downward over centuries. This story spread through textbooks, classrooms, and popular science writing for decades. It is not true. The reason those old panes are thicker at the bottom is much simpler. Old glass was made by spinning a molten disc and cutting it into panes, a process called crown glass. The spinning created slightly uneven thickness. When glaziers installed these panes, they placed the thicker edge at the bottom for stability. There is no flow. Glass at room temperature does not move on any human timescale. But the question behind the myth, what exactly is the state of glass, is genuinely unresolved. Physicists classify glass as what they call a non-equilibrium material. This means that unlike a true solid crystal, which is in a stable minimum energy state, glass is technically frozen in a higher energy state than its most stable form would be. It never finished organizing itself into the lowest energy arrangement. It got stuck. Cooled too fast to crystallize, it locked into a disordered state, and has been in that state ever since. Whether this means glass is a very slow liquid, a special kind of amorphous solid, or something in its own category entirely, is a question that materials scientists still debate. In 2017, a research group at the University of Chicago, led by physicist Heinrich Jaeger, published work suggesting that understanding the glass transition, the point at which a glass-forming liquid stops behaving like a liquid and starts behaving like a solid, could unlock insights into the behavior of many other complex disordered systems, from proteins to granular materials. The glass in your window has not been fully explained. Not yet. Meanwhile, the engineering of glass has pushed far beyond anything the Murano glassmakers could have imagined. Modern glass is not one material. It is a family of hundreds of engineered compositions, each tuned for a specific purpose. Borosilicate glass, developed in the late 19th century by German chemist Otto Schott, added boron oxide to the mixture. This made the glass far more resistant to thermal shock, the tendency of regular glass to crack when heated unevenly. You know this glass as Pyrex. It is the reason your baking dish does not shatter when you take it from a cold refrigerator and put it in a hot oven. Tempered glass is regular glass that has been heated and then rapidly cooled in a controlled way. This puts the outer surfaces of the glass under compression and the interior under tension. When tempered glass breaks, those internal stresses cause it to shatter into thousands of small, roughly rounded fragments instead of long, sharp shards. This is the glass in your car's side windows, your shower door, and the glass panel on the back of many smartphones. Laminated glass layers, 2 sheets of glass around a thin plastic film, typically polyvinyl butyryl. When it breaks, the fragments stick to the plastic rather than spraying outward. This is your car windshield. In a collision, instead of exploding into the cabin, the windshield holds together, crumbles, and maintains the structural shape of the car's roof long enough to protect the people inside. And then there is the glass in your phone screen. Gorilla Glass, developed by Corning, a company that has been making specialty glass since 1868, is an ion-exchanged aluminosilicate glass. After the glass sheet is formed, it is submerged in a hot potassium salt bath. Potassium ions, which are larger than the sodium ions they replace, are forced into the surface of the glass. This creates an extremely high compressive stress layer on the surface, a layer so compressed that cracks have almost no space to propagate. The result is a glass screen that can absorb significant impacts without shattering, on a material that is only a fraction of a millimeter thick. The screen your thumb is moving across right now is an engineered surface under enormous invisible compression, protecting itself from the inside out. And glass is still evolving. Electrochromic glass, sometimes called smart glass, can switch from transparent to opaque in response to an electrical current. Buildings in some cities already use it in facades that adjust their own opacity based on sunlight, reducing heat gain without blocking the view. Self-cleaning glass uses a titanium dioxide coating that reacts with ultraviolet light to break down organic molecules. The dirt on your window surface literally breaks apart and washes away in rain. You have been looking through glass your entire life. It is the most transparent thing in your daily world. It sits between you and the outside, between you and the stars, between your eye and the microscopic world that medicine depends on. But inside that transparent surface is one of the most genuinely mysterious structures in materials science. A material frozen between states, held together by disorder, transmitting light because of an atomic arrangement that physicists still cannot fully explain. You are looking through glass right now. And even after 3,500 years, scientists are still trying to understand exactly what you are looking through.